should say Happy Easter. If it is Easter. I'm going to read Basho. Basho. If we're really into Zen, it seems like we should just start at the beginning, like Basho would. He would say, just start at the beginning. Anyway, so let's start at the beginning. What? Basho. Basho is a narrow road to the deep north and other travel sketches. It's not a travel journal. It is a journal. It's a travel sketch of his, translated from Japanese. Yeah. All right, I'm gonna read the introduction. They have the poems in here if you'll bear with me. Introduction, haiku or hoku. Haiku, hoku, as it is called during the lifetime of Basho, is the shortest among the traditionally accepted forms of Japanese poetry. It consists of 17 syllables divided into 3 sections of 5-7-5. Example. Yuki ya kawasu tabikomu mizu no oto. Actually, it just means, translation, poem, breaking the silence of an ancient pond. A frog jumped into water. A great resonance. See, that's 5-7-5. I tried to write some 5-7-5 poems. It is obvious, however, that it is not sufficient to define haiku purely from the standpoint of a syllabic structure, for haiku, like any other form of literature, has grown out of a long process and is subject to a number of restrictions. A number of restrictions historically imposed upon it. Let me, therefore, attempt by way of an introduction a short history of haiku so that the reader may get acquainted with the essential traits of this most fascinating literary form. Long before haiku, or even its distant prototype, came into existence, there was already an established form of poetry in Japanese literature, and this form, waka, W-A-K-A, waka, consisted of 31 syllables divided into 5 sections of 5-7, 5-7-7. Interesting. Because I thought it was 5-7, 5-7-5, but it's 5-7-5-7-7. Really? For example, Haru no ni Shumiru Sumi Niko Koshi Warizu no O Natsukashi Simi Nitoyo Ni Kiro. Alright. Coming with a light heart to pick some violets. Coming with a light heart to pick some violets. I found it difficult to leave, and slept overnight here in this spring field. And here it is again. On a long spring day, when all is happily bathed in the peaceful sun, cherry blossoms alone fall unwilling to stay. As these examples indicate, this older and longer form of Japanese poetry was considerably suited for more emotive expression and refined description of nature. Hence it became extremely popular among aristocratic courtiers. Courtiers, however, employed this form sometimes in their playful mood as a medium of witty conversation, breaking it into two separate halves of 575 and 77, for example. How is it that I hear the noise of creaking oars in the deepest mountains? Because of this ripening fruits, the rub against wood as oars do, that rub against. I'll do that again. How is it that I hear the noise of creaking oars in the deepest mountains? Because of the ripening fruits that rub against wood as oars do. Or again, it has passed midnight. I no longer wait for you, pining for sorrow. Oh dear, I overslept, wanting to see you in the dream. Sometimes the order of the two halves was reversed to give more independence to each counterpart and greater freedom to the exercise of wit. For example, the horse grazing on the bank seems to me black in color. I think it otherwise, for its reflection in the paddy says chestnut brown. This kind of witty verse, which continued to be written under the name of linked verse, Renga, throughout the Henian period, 794 to 1191, seems to me to be the earliest germ of haiku poetry, for it is here that, for the first time, the 575 syllabic structure came to be recognized as a poetic unit, though not completely independent, and furthermore the witty and playful tone of the linked verse is a heritage which passes into the marrow of later haiku, though somewhat modified by subsequent developments. During the end of the Henian period and more universally in the Kamakura period, 1192 to 1392, arose the fashion of writing a long chain of linked verse by multiplying the number of links. For example, I wonder how it is now in the ancient capital of Nara. Those time-honored cherries that bloom in double flowers must be in their autumnal tints. Each rain of fall brings forth ever-deepening colors in the leaves. In the beginning, the number of poems that thus linked together was relatively small, but before long, as many as 36, 46, 36, 44, 50, even 100 poems began to be included in the series. What must be borne in mind in reading these long sequences of linked verse is that they are written by a number of poets sitting together and writing alternatively, and that each poem in a series was linked to the immediately preceding one, either by witty association or verbal play. Why can't we write linked poetry? I do a line and you do a line. Hmm? And then we have other poets and they all link them up, which have the link net. The link. interlinked, linked, linked poetry net. Retro. So I guess this is kind of like the internet in Japan with the poets linked or linked where were we? Let's see. Kind of. All right. So this series of linked immediately preceding one another by witty association or verbal play. The result was often a kind of kaleidoscopic beauty with infinite variety revealed to the reader in a slowly evolving movement. Inherent in these long sequences of linked verse, however, was a danger that they might degenerate into chaotic confusion or tedious monotony. To prevent this, therefore, various attempts were made to establish certain rules of composition. And various schools of poets began to be formed during the Kamakura period. These schools were classified roughly into two groups: the serious Usian and the non-serious Mushin. The former trying to emulate the elegant style of waka, and the later persisting in witty composition of a lower order. Towards the end of the Kamakura period and during the Miro-Maki period, 1390 to 1602, however, the poets of the serious group won gradual ascendancy, and with the coming of Sogi. Sogi is 1421 to 1602. Now we're talking about those famous ancient poets, Sogi, S-O-G-I, and the art of linked verse reached its perfection. Let me quote here the first 8 poems of his masterpiece called Menasi Sagin as an example of the supreme art. Maybe you want to read this guy. Poem. Snow-capped as they are, the gentle slopes of the mountains fade into the hazy mist at twilight on a spring day. The river descends far and distant, plum fragrance filling the village. In a soft river breeze stands a single willow tree, fresh in spring color. At early dawn, every push of the oar is audible from a passing boat. There must be a moon dying in the morning sky, wrapped in a heavy fog. The ground is covered with frost. The autumn is drawing to its close. In a sorrowful voice, a cricket is heard singing beneath the withering grass. I paid a call to a friend of mine, taking a desolate lane by the hedge. I think I should stop on page 15 for a break. What? Read. I have to stop because of the 15 minutes. Then I can read again. Read again. Okay, I will read again. We're continuing with Basho from the very beginning. Very good. Basho. It's called The Narrow Road to the Deep North and Other Travel Sketches. Okay. We're reading the introduction.